Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We'll give it just another minute or so to let a few more stragglers come in, then we'll get started. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming in this morning. Today's breakout is Reimagining the Conference Room with Zoom Rooms. My name is Dan Kurzman. I'm a senior engineer with our sales engineering team. Joined today with my colleague, Derek Rude, also on our enterprise sales engineering team. In a few minutes, we'll introduce a few customer guest speakers and bring them up on stage. But before we do that, we just want to make sure those of you that may not already have Zoom Rooms are familiar with what Zoom Rooms are. So just cover some quick basics here. Zoom Rooms is our software-defined conference room solution. So we're using off-the-shelf, commodity-based hardware to deliver a HD audio and video experience in your conference room and collaboration spaces. We offer wireless sharing, one-touch sharing. You saw it demoed on the stage today. Some features I don't even have on my slide because I couldn't talk about them yet, such as multi-share that just came out today for your Zoom Rooms. Handoff from your mobile device, joining into your Zoom room. Great features we talked about on the main stage today. Excuse me. And of course, seamless integration with your Exchange, Office 365, and Google Suite calendaring system. So one-touch scheduling, one-touch starting and joining from the Zoom room. We strive to make it the easiest conference room solution on the market. And my personal favorite, because we know most of you are not just one building, you've got offices all around the country, all around the world. We offer a single pane of glass to manage those rooms from initial configuration, settings, alert notifications, all from your Zoom admin portal. So where do you put a Zoom room? Anywhere. You'll see Zoom rooms in little phone booth rooms, as you saw in the demo, the video at InBev. You see large executive conference rooms, training rooms. You see we've got a variety of different Zoom rooms on the expo floor showing that Zoom rooms can go anywhere and they can fit any space. We talked a little bit about scheduling displays. You'll see the scheduling displays at all of our Zoom rooms on the floor. The ability to book those rooms right from the tablet, to see what's going on today. Some of our partners you see on the floor, Crestron is doing some neat devices with lights. So you can walk down a hallway and at a glance see if a room is available or not, walk up to it and book it. And of course, digital signage, which we talked more about a little bit ago on the main stage as well. Originally, you could load your own, marketing collateral, employee of the month, more static images. This month, we launched the ability to add video files, as well as we could always do links off the internet, YouTube, etc. And as I mentioned on the stage, and my favorite part about digital signage is expanding your reach for your meetings, your webinars, your CEO all-hands event. Anywhere where you put a TV, you can bring that into a meeting. You can broadcast those events throughout your organization worldwide. And Zoom rooms and scheduling displays, these features, which typically you had to buy from somebody else, they're free in your Zoom room license. You have one Zoom room, you put as many digital signs out there as you want. You put as many scheduling displays. Doesn't even have to be in a technology-based room. You got your quiet room, your wellness room. Put a tablet outside the door, make it bookable. Avoid those knocking on the door, the head popping in, and oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were meeting in there. So all that's available today in our Zoom platform. So if you're not using Zoom rooms today, come out to the show floor, check out our rooms. We got lots of examples to show you. Meet up with our partners. You'll see Crestron, Logitech, Aver, Panicast, many more. Any hardware you want, we can find a way to work it into Zoom room, Polycom. So with that, just a quick bit about Zoom rooms. You see some examples of our rooms. One of the key things we like about deploying Zoom rooms is clean rooms, simple. You have a tablet on the table, nothing else. You may have a speaker or mic depending on how you deploy your room. A lot of times it's in the ceiling, on a wall, maybe it's on your table, but they're clean, simple to use rooms. The interface is always the same. The tablets are always the same, whether you choose iOS, Android, Windows. It's the same user experience in every room they walk into, making it the easiest conference rooms to use. So with that, I'm going to bring up a couple customers. We've got a nice variety here. We've got a customer that's been using Zoom Rooms for over 4.5 years. We've got another that's just on the start of their deployment for about 4 months now. So we'll get some good perspective of what Zoom Rooms has been like for them, how their conference rooms worked before Zoom, what drove them to Zoom, and kind of what the future looks like as they reimagine the functionality of their conference rooms. So let me introduce Christopher Rogers, Senior Vice President of Information Technology at Sykes Enterprises, and Greg Martin, the Senior Manager of Corporate Vision, Voice and Video at Nasdaq. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So today we're going to make this a little more conversation. We're going to ask some questions, a little back and forth. At the end, we will open up questions from the floor. We do have a mic in the center. I'll let you know as we get to that point if you guys want to queue up for any questions. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Christopher, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story with conference rooms, what you used before, how you came to Zoom, how Zoom Rooms have played an important part for Sykes.
Okay, so I'll try to take about 9 years into about 4 minutes. How about that? So unlike a lot of the people that I've met at this conference, which has been fantastic so far, whose video journey kind of started more with the individual and the client and then looked at rooms, Sykes very much started our video journey with rooms, with conference rooms. After years of, let's just face it, kind of lousy experience, old big CRT TVs on carts that probably came from the mailroom and kind of lousy cameras, and they sat in rooms and nobody did anything with them. We really started our video conferencing journey in 2009. A client and vendor of ours brought us in for a demo and showed us what a truly immersive 3-panel video conference could be. And that's when we're like, okay, it's time to look at this again. That particular solution didn't meet our use case at the time for a few reasons. It required a dedicated use room. The room couldn't be used for anything else. Dedicated bandwidth. We have a massive communications network with lots of redundant bandwidth. I didn't want to buy dedicated bandwidth. And it was expensive. So it didn't meet our needs at the time, but it showed us where we could go. So in 2009, our CIO, Dave Pearson, our VP of Information Systems, Shelton Hook, and our global IT research and development director, our kind of mad scientist, Mike Davis, really sat down to say, we're going to go our own. We rented a space on a floor in our corporate headquarters, and over the course of over 9 months, we built a system soup to nuts. Optimal eye contact, everything that we kind of wanted to do, and built it ourselves. It was based on a life-size codec, 3 off-the-shelf Sony camcorders, custom designed internal software to run on a tablet to basically run the entire system, an internally developed scheduling system to integrate with SharePoint, custom designed and contracted furniture, Shure microphones, and then a custom bi-amp setup. And it was a fantastic room. In order to kind of get video conferencing, this vision that we really knew was going to transform how we do business, we had to overcome some skepticism and from our regional P&L owners. There was some cost involved in doing this, so we provided seed money, corporate seed money, to build some of these rooms. And then over the course of a couple of years, video conferencing kind of transformed how Sykes works. From an internal collaboration perspective, we ended up with about 150 of these rooms. But we knew we had to go to the cloud. One, that's where the industry was going. Two, the ACLs, oh my goodness, was network administration a hassle. Plus remote access to all of this hardware we had out there, patching, updating, the continuous code review and updates, trying to find new features. And then because we were becoming so video-centric, that the forcing people to come into our building to participate in these video meetings was limiting. So we overcame the last objection by finding a cloud provider that would allow individuals from their equipment to be able to join. We used that as a bridging solution, but that created its own problems. We'd invested a ton of time and energy into these immersive multi-panel rooms, and as soon as we brought a cloud bridge into it, you couldn't use but one of the panels. Plus, it was an expensive solution, good quality, but we also didn't feel like we had much in the way of being able to work with their roadmap with them. But we went with a formal shootout. Zoom wasn't one of those until two things happened almost at the same time. One, we got a help desk ticket from the field saying someone was trying to install an application being blocked by Symantec, and lo and behold, that was a little bit of IT in the wild, and it was the Zoom application that was being blocked. So it piqued my interest because we were looking at cloud. And then our CEO, Chuck Sykes, was also in one of the facilities where one of our managers had found Zoom and was kind of experimenting. So I took a look at it. I thought it was impressive, particularly impressive, and added that to our shootout. And then through the course of our IT users and our power users, Zoom was the clear winner in that solution. We started our migration down that path, became a Zoom customer in early 2014. For about the first 6 months, Zoom was on my personal credit card and expensed until that became untenable. And then fast forward, 4.5 years, bada bing, bada boom, where we have about 10,000 users. 125 of our rooms have been retrofitted or built as Zoom rooms, and we do about 5 million minutes a month across our enterprise.
That's great. It's quite the story, just of kind of that whole thing. And as you said, try to summarize that in just a few minutes. I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of went along that way. So thank you, Greg. Along the same lines, can you tell us about Nasdaq's kind of journey of conference room solutions? What was the strategy prior to Zoom, and what ultimately led you to Zoom's offering?
Sure. So for Nasdaq, I mean, as most of you know, we're a pretty secure company. And our previous CEO and executives just really didn't want any information getting outside the company. So all of our calls were pretty much on-prem. We had an on-prem solution with expensive codecs. And it's on a completely separate booking system. It's very clunky. So most of the time, it was just executive level or just below that would use our video rooms. However, they really liked video. All their calls were video. So our on-prem solution was pretty good, and it worked for 10 years or so. It was fine. Over the past several years, we would keep on looking to different solutions on how we can integrate Outlook in a better way, how we can reach out to clients in a better way, and it just wasn't economically feasible. We would get a good solution, and then that solution would just have a huge price tag on it. So we just couldn't move forward on that level. With the codecs being so expensive, we also had other buildings. Nasdaq's a pretty good-sized company now. We're worldwide. Probably about 13, 14 sites in Europe. We have about 30-ish in North America, and then we expand into Asia and Australia. So as we were picking up these other companies, we wanted to put all these smaller rooms in too. So we had these huddle spaces that we put in. We created a homegrown solution where we just laid the codec over top of that, and there's probably about 80 of those out there. So that made it a little more reasonable for us to expand our video. We still had the problem, though, with clients. Our sales team, they always wanted to have video calls with our clients, and we just didn't allow clients to call into us. So we would have to actually work with their video people and get their IP address, open up a firewall rule, have the meeting, close the firewall rule, and then that was it. We didn't allow anybody to call back into us. The other problem you could imagine is, what if that company had the same policy? Then you can't really talk unless you use a bridging system, which are great out there. Blue Jeans was a good system, but it gets expensive, so we didn't do it that often. So fast forward to last year, or maybe really even 2.5 years ago. Bob Greifeld left as CEO, and his heir apparent is Adina Friedman, who came on board. She is fantastic, and her whole thing now is innovation. So that brought out cloud. So we are actually getting encouragement to move to the cloud now. We have to be super careful and secure with it, but we have the green light to go. So that kind of started last year, and the other side of what we do, all of our calls have to be encrypted. So we had to find a partner that would encrypt every call. We had Adina in a company that we acquired last year, and when she went down there, their system could not do encryption. So we had to fire up Zoom really quick on a borrowed license from Zoom and call them without a hitch, and that started our journey with Zoom. So then about probably 6 months ago, I started talking with Dan and Mo, our account sales manager, and really looking into moving everything to Zoom. We presented it to Brad Peterson, our CIO, and he loves it. We got on a meeting with Mo. He totally geeked out. I was in the meeting, already on a Zoom meeting with him, and then he's behind me with his iPad, then his cell phone, just getting everything in there. So he's a huge proponent and going to sell it to the rest of the company. We're really not going to roll it out company-wide till next year. But yeah, we're in a great situation. We're super excited. So we're where Chris was about 4 years ago.
Once you start, it's going to go fast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I remember when we hosted you in Denver a few months back, we in all of our Zoom offices try to do a good diversity of components. All of our Zoom rooms are slightly different. We showcase all the different off-the-shelf type components you can use. And as I was walking your team around, they're really getting really excited about the different pieces they were seeing. What was it about utilizing commodity hardware that's so important for Nasdaq?
Yeah, so like I said, we had the issue with codecs and being so expensive and people wanting video rooms all over the place. And with our new open floor concept, which we adopted from our Stockholm office, our interior is where all the offices are. And a lot of them are just multi-use huddle rooms. So we created our own systems there. And luckily, all those systems are Dell Minis. Zoom can lay right over top of them. So we were able to lay out 2 or 3 of them to test, and there's no cost. We just flip it over, and within about a half hour, we had our Windows 10 team build a new image, because we do have it on our network. We do have the security that we have to deal with, probably a little more than other companies might. But we had them build that Windows 10 image, and we laid Zoom on top of it. And the other side effect of that was, right now with our Windows machines, the legacy ones, we have pop-ups that come up, all the patching and stuff like that. With the new image, we were able to work with Zoom and make it so that they wouldn't just pop up all the time. But it's a free system for us. We already have the hardware. We have about 80 rooms out there. Next year, we'll probably have at least 50 to 70 of them moved over if we can't get all of them. And then after that is when our legacy codecs are going to start going end of life, end of support. We'll start retrofitting Zoom in there. And we can reuse a lot of the stuff. A lot of our monitors we can reuse. A lot of our cameras we can reuse. We just need to take out the codec and put an expensive Dell in there. And yeah, it's exciting.
No, I think that's something a lot of our customers see is just, and what we tell our customers is just around reusing that existing hardware that you may have in the rooms or repurposing a lot of that. So that's great. Christopher, now you guys have been a Zoom customer now for 4.5 years?
4.5 years.
And I'm sure it hasn't been smooth sailing the whole entire way, or as I know you said, rainbows and unicorns.
Rainbows, unicorns, and Skittles.
Yes. So I guess through some of those challenges, I mean, how has Zoom helped with kind of getting past those challenges that you may have seen during those 4.5 years? And what is your experience like today as you continue to deploy additional Zoom rooms?
Absolutely. And I think part of part of my answer to that, I've actually heard reflected in themes. So if any of you went to the digital signage session yesterday or the innovation through consolidation session, I think I'm going to pick up some of the themes that they did. Now, of course, it was not all rainbows, unicorns, and Skittles. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. And I'm going to focus primarily on what the challenges and the help were on our rooms, because that's where this partnership with Zoom, I think, actually fully solidified. But before I move to the rooms, I mean, we had some issues. We were an early Zoom customer. Billing was awful. Every new user, every new feature generated an individual bill. I told you it was on my credit card. I was getting dozens of individual bills. I mean, it was a nightmare. Plus, we're a global company, 22 countries, about 90 offices, and we do allocate out costs, and I needed to be able to put certain codes in the system to be able to pass those through. Zoom couldn't do that, and then Zoom went through a billing system change that was, well, let's just say not smooth. I couldn't get a bill, I couldn't get a right bill. All the way, I ended up having to escalate to Eric and said, I need a bill. And he said, you'll have a bill tomorrow or your next year's free. And I had a bill the next day. But that was not, but that wasn't the point, but then they listened what we needed. They put some things in the billing system. They were very transparent. Similarly, we were already a video-centric organization. Video for us isn't a luxury, and a Zoom engineer took the whole platform down. I mean, the whole thing. But what I liked was we got full transparency on what happened. We got an RFO. We got an after-action plan on how the IT change management procedures were changing, and we've not seen that since. So there's this sense of being honest, trustworthy, here's what I say, making a commitment and doing it. But if we talk about rooms, our biggest obstacle to rooms was Zoom didn't do what we wanted it to do. That was everything from we had based our experience on triple panel rooms. So we had single and double panel as well, but we had these triple panel rooms. Zoom was really struggling to get the triple panels out. That was something that kind of kept coming. Layouts were not exactly how we wanted. I mean, when you've built your own system, you get really used to having been able to customize exactly what you wanted. All those customizations may not be right, but they feel right because you built them. But we knew a lot of them were. And so this is where our relationship with Zoom really solidified. Eric Yuan and Nick Chong. Nick was not just services then. He kind of had lots of things, including products. We met with the two of them, myself and Mike Davis, every few weeks for close to a year. And we would give use cases. We would give detailed design documentation to Zoom on how we thought the platform could meet them. And there were two parts of that I really respected. One was Eric knew darn well what his vision for this company was. And if we asked for something that didn't fit in that vision, he just said, I'm sorry, we can't, or we won't. Not necessarily can't, we won't do that. But everything that fit with that vision, or that maybe even helped Sykes accelerate that vision, they listened. We had design meetings. We were told what version release it would be in, what order, when, and what date, and delivered. And I was like, this is a company I can have a long-term relationship with. We don't meet that often anymore because we got the rooms kind of where we wanted. But we have a great relationship between the managers on my team that run this and some of the Zoom folks. They help us when we have new needs that come up. And that partnership was just reinforced with a conversation that I had with Eric and several of the executives last night on some of the other things we want to do move forward. And I think you'll hear a lot of presenters here this week saying that collaboration between their customers and Zoom, they value. That's not lip service, folks. They really do. So,
thank you. So I guess a lot of people can thank you for kind of smoothing things out on the Zoom Room side.
I give all the credit to Zoom. They're the ones that put the risk in the game. We just gave some ideas.
Sure. So Greg, you're kind of at the other end of the spectrum. Christopher and team, they've been with Zoom now 4.5 years. You guys are just getting going and still early in the Zoom Room deployment. I think you said you had, was it 8, 10 rooms today?
I think 10 rooms
10?
right now.
Okay. And I guess with that said, what impact do you anticipate Zoom Rooms having on end users, meeting spaces, and just overall conference room management moving forward?
Yeah, so it's going to increase the use of video for all of our users. As I said before, right now, they have to schedule all their meetings in one system, take an email from that, then send it out in Outlook. We've already integrated the Zoom rooms with our Outlook, so we have not really released it to too many people yet. But in certain locations and certain user groups, we've pushed it out and shown them, hey, just go to Outlook and reserve the rooms here. So the hesitancy of people not just wanting to book in two places and just not deal with video, that's going to go away. They're going to be able to book video all through Outlook, and it's going to increase the use. And it's not going to be just for executives. It's kind of looked at, a lot of our rooms are just executive rooms. We're opening that up to our entire company. And for most of our managers and groups in Nasdaq, they're worldwide. So my team, I have 3 people on the East Coast. I'm in Colorado. I have 2 guys in Stockholm and 1 guy in India. So if I want a meeting, I'd rather do it on video because I get so much more out of it. So that's the message we're starting to internally build now, and we have the buzz going out there. So we know it, probably in about November, we're really going to push it out to all users so that they know it's coming, and we know we're going to get that request to speed it up. So we're going to have to slow it down. But that message to get people to embrace video more, it's super easy with millennials. They get it. They're my kind of secret weapon in all this. I use them as, so if their managers are having issues, I just put the millennial with them, show them what it is, and it takes 5 minutes and they're good to go. And then the managers will then see that you can get so much more out of a video meeting. Just the facial expressions. People end up, if they're not on video, they're multitasking. They're doing other things. So the meetings will be longer because you have to catch up with, and I've done the same thing too, where I have to replay in my mind what I just heard because I was totally doing something else. And then I get back to it. Well, if I'm on video, I can't do that. I get called out for it. So yeah, that's where we're heading, and yeah, we're really looking forward to putting this message out. It's an exciting moment for us because we've just been kind of treading water for so long. This is innovation for us, and like Adina has told us, that's where we want to go. So yeah, we're really excited for the future.
So Greg, you need to remind me later to show you how to turn on attention tracking on your account. So you can make, during the meeting, you'll know right away when Julio or Rob and, not paying attention, they're over looking at their email or Facebook. So
right.
We'll bring some more efficiency to your meetings for sure.
Yeah, because my team, we all do pretty much work from home since we're remote. So yeah, we always have our personal computers and a movie on or something like that. So
absolutely. So Christopher Sykes, you said, is very video centric. You've got 125 plus or minus rooms out there today. How important were Zoom rooms in your user adoption and the overall collaboration and communications for Sykes?
Well, yeah, video conferencing in general, and Zoom as our primary, almost our only, actually, partner right now, other than a few legacy pieces of equipment. It's the easiest way to answer that. It's how we work. We are a global company. More than half of my team doesn't even live in the United States. We have leadership spread around the world, and Zoom is how we work. All of our executive offices have a single or double panel Zoom room. All of our huddle rooms are Zoom enabled. We brand it internally as Global Village, which was our internal branding before Zoom. We retain that branding because we like the symmetry of it and it's well understood. But so every conference room is Zoom GV enabled, every huddle room. One of the first things we do with new acquisitions is install at least one Zoom room in the headquarters of the company that we acquire. I spend 2 to 5 hours a day on Zoom in my office where I have a double panel room. Any meeting that is scheduled, internal meeting in Sykes, it's going to have a Zoom bridge and a Zoom room attached to it. We have given up almost the entirety of our conference calling capabilities and bridges and accounts throughout the company. It's how we work. Now, a few of the benefits I think that you've kind of seen from that is I can't say Zoom has reduced our travel costs. So if you're working with your CFO and that's the case you want to make, start tracking that early, but there's a lot of variables that go into that one, so I won't say that. But it's definitely enhanced and grown our participation. Whereas we may have had a group of in-person global planning meetings or regional meetings, prior you want to limit the number of people that you bring to those for travel costs or the number of times, and now we still have some in-person, but we can do multiple meetings. Who wants to be in a group meeting around a phone? Nobody, they just don't work. But when everybody's on video, they can. So it's increased the number of collaborative sessions we have. We did have a global IT leadership conference a couple of months ago. All of the senior executives of the company, multi-departmental, show up. One of our senior executives needed to be with a client in Australia. Put a mobile Zoom room. I'll talk maybe more about those later if we have time, in the conference room, and then our executive joined from his hotel room in Australia, and it was fabulous. But again, from my perspective as a service provider, technology is working when your end users want it and demand it. And so what I'll say there is if we start having problems with Zoom, it's not a nuisance, it's noisy and it escalates fast. I mentioned 2 weeks ago in our 2019 Global Ops Planning meetings that I was going to be here, and like 2 executives immediately said, "Hey, you want a quote? I'll give you one." And then another meeting I happened to be in a few weeks ago, one of our general managers was just random sitting around. He was about to put up a display, and he goes, "Man, I don't understand why everybody doesn't use Zoom." And so everything from what it's done to what it's enabled to the end user experience, both bad when it goes wrong and positive day to day, shows how important video conferencing overall is to us, and Zoom is our partner. So.
Boy, so just based upon, going back to when you first heard about Zoom because of a virus scan and blocking the application, to where you're at now, sounds like it's really transformed just your business and how you do business, how you work. And I guess based on that, where do you see kind of your conference room evolution going in the future, and how do you see Zoom fitting into that?
So I'm not sure that I can absorb all the things I've learned in the last 24 hours into that answer, because Greg and I were both saying some of these things have shifted since we've been here. But I can tell you several. How many of you have the experience that when you give your users something that is higher quality, easier, and cheaper than what they had before, you get a temporary bump of nice job, but then you've set a whole new bar and now they want more features for no more money, right? Okay, good. I'm glad that's not just me. And that's really where we are, is now taking this room, where we want to go. And I can name a few things. I still believe the weakest link with Zoom is audio. In this kind of, I really want an immersive experience, and it feels darn near like you're in the same room with people. But audio it's not quite the hurdle of coming up with a better battery. But it hasn't caught up with the rest. So we are constantly looking at different microphones and speaker solutions, and I need something there, particularly where I'm going to go in a minute with wireless. So that's one. Whiteboarding collaboration is a struggle for us. Something about our culture of our company, digital whiteboarding just doesn't work. I did see a pretty cool device out in the gallery, and I want to check that out a little more. I need it to be mobile. It looks like it has to be mounted on a wall, but it's got promise. But still, we do believe that some kind of camera-enabled whiteboarding is going to help with collaboration. So we're looking forward to that. A couple of things, I'll kind of start jokingly, but then get to my point. The ability, screen layouts and positioning is something that we're really wanting to be involved in. And the silly example of that is generally, take our executive boardroom. There's 3 90-inch televisions in there. And usually in a meeting, it's a combination of other Zoom rooms and individuals who have joined. clearly we would prefer the other Zoom rooms that are joined to take up more screen space on the screen than the individuals, particularly as televisions get larger. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to think that we may have a 160-inch television someday, and I don't really want the active speaker to pop on, and it's like a giant on the screen with Bill Gates looking over Steve Jobs' shoulder from that famous shot. I want to be able to scale that. And I also believe that we're going to need to use that real estate. So what I'd really like to see is drag and drop display, but not going into an admin portal. I want to be able to do it from the tablet. And then you can, and for some of you who use the tablet right now, you can even save the positions of the camera angles. I think it'd be great. Let them real time drag and drop it, and then when they go away, it washes and it's back to where they are. But if there's a use case for the room to do that, press the button, hold it, and save it. So there's some features like that. And then we're not thinking about this anything immediately right now, but I talk about that immersive experience. I do kind of want to know where some of the augmented reality and AI can come into play on, everything from, counting heads, people, and all that to what's the next big evolution. And then I know I'm going on, so I'll quit. The biggest thing is mobile. We've built carts that we can move from different positions. I want an easier solution for what I'd call like a Zoom pop-up room. Right now, my staff does a great job of hauling equipment to conferences to set up a mobile room, but it's a PITA, if you know what that means. So it'd be better if we could find a way to have a really high-quality pop-up Zoom room somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you've all heard on the main stage and other sessions, Zoom continues to innovate and bring features and functions from customer feedback from all of you. So we encourage you to always reach out to your CSMs and your account managers, share that feedback. Christopher did that in the beginning to help shape Zoom rooms. And now Derek and I have homework. We're going to have to listen to our cloud recording after this and take notes from the transcript to submit all your feature requests. So we'll get on that for you. But similar question for you, Greg. What's the future look like for Nasdaq? I know you guys are just starting your rollout. What's that going to be for the next year or two as conference rooms become more video enabled and rolled out for Nasdaq?
Yeah, so we're really starting from the base, ground level, and building it out. And probably the best example of where we're going next is our market site in Times Square. We have 4 different locations in New York right now. We're consolidating them all to Times Square starting next year. And the first levels are going to be the first, second, where if you've been to Times Square, you've seen that's where our studio is, CNBC, or our mid, Adina is there most of the time, and then our tower. Well, we're also getting the 10th floor, which is the very top of the tower, pretty much right across from the ball, so it's going to be a cool area on New Year's. But we've been directed to do a client-facing solution there. So right now, when a client comes in, they can't really use our systems. They can't book them. There's nothing they can do. They'll be able to walk in these new locations, and we're going to use digital signage to welcome them in. That's something that we kind of do now, but not everywhere. It's just certain locations that the clients come in. We'll have it everywhere. The other thing is that when clients come in, everything right now is pretty much wired. So if they want to show content, they have to grab a cable. If the cable is still there and has not walked off, which often happens. So with Zoom, anybody can walk in there and just bring up a Zoom meeting and then join it from that location.
And the look on their face the first time they do that is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll have our legacy users that still look for the cable, but we'll get over that. So then at the next systems that we'll do in market site are going to be on the 26, 27, 28. That's going to be our corporate level. That's where we're going to be able to build out our offices and spec them out ourselves. So we're going to be working with Zoom hand in hand in designing our new rooms. We have a few immersive rooms that just aren't made anymore. So we're actually going to be able to build these ourselves, and we're looking forward to it. We can't wait to see what Zoom comes out with next year, because they're a young company, so they're always coming out with new things. And Sykes gets to, test them out for us, and then we take them after that when they work, and we know. So, we're really excited for the future, and it's just kind of open doors for us, and it's going to change the way Nasdaq does business. We've been in more of an internal looking company. Adena is changing that. We're looking outside. We want clients to want to do business with us and come to our location, and we'll definitely schmooze anybody that comes in the door. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So we have about 6 minutes left. Then it's off to lunch. We will stay around longer as well. We do have a mic in the middle of the floor. If there's any questions from the audience, feel free to come up to the mic, and you can ask questions of Greg, Christopher, or even Derek and I.
I had a question about Greg, I believe it was. I'm currently in a Mac OS environment, and we're considering Windows devices for smaller phone rooms. And I was curious to know what you're using for device management in your current environment.
This is for the current video systems that we have out there?
For the Zoom rooms that you have.
For the Zoom rooms?
Yeah.
We use the dashboard for all of the
Okay.
I think you're talking more about
Like
the
AirWatch
Windows,
or-
Oh.
the Windows
He's moving
image.
into an
and-
office
yeah.
environment, so how do you manage the endpoints?
Yeah, how are you pushing your image? How are you
Well-
locking down single app mode and whatnot?
Yeah, we have an image built that's on our share that we can just push out. We have our desktop support team that helps us with that. And yeah, was there more to it?
We can connect offline and talk more about some best practices and PC management, using SCCM and other platforms out there. So feel free to ping Derek or I afterward. Thanks. Yeah. Any other questions?
I work at Yale University School of Management. We've been doing a lot with Zoom for a long time. But we've recently started really using the Zoom rooms, and I'm trying to really push those into a lot of our conference rooms, especially our newer conference rooms that we're doing. However, one of the biggest challenges that I've had that I've been able to work around is that, Zoom's great. I'll call ourselves kind of a Zoom house. We have a lot of people using Zoom, and we can do our conferences going outbound. But when we have clients that schedule meetings with us, a lot of times we may have students that are doing interviews with Google, right? So Google will want to use Hangouts. And we want to be able to take the advantage of the video from another provider. So being able to connect to those with just audio isn't a solution for us. I've been recently able to get around that, taking advantage of Crestron and doing the page flip and then tying in a laptop with USB. Curious, I've got to imagine you guys have run into that problem, and curious what you guys have done to accommodate it, or if that's still a challenge that you face.
Yeah, we do. There's no doubt. We don't run into it as often as you would expect. However, we're a BPO. We're an extension of several hundred different companies, and a lot of those companies have their own video conferencing or meeting collaboration tools, some of which they make themselves and market and are competitors to Zoom and want us to join using theirs. So that is a challenge. Generally, we overcome that in a not particularly sophisticated way. We a lot of times will have people take those calls from their offices, from their PCs. Because we are so heavily video enabled, pretty much everybody has a webcam and all that for their individual Zoom use. So we can just do that. The other thing that we can do is it's a little more white glove. This conversation Greg and I were having before. We run all of our single and double panel Zoom rooms on Mac Minis. Our triples, we have so many problems with the Mac Pros. We do run those on a Lenovo PC. And all of the hardware has nothing to do with Zoom. So the speaker and the television and the TVs and the cameras, we use Logitech for the most part, cameras. So we can just have one of the IT guys come, log out of Zoom, we lock that down, bring up a Chrome browser, and then join, a WebEx or whatever else, because all the equipment works, the room's configured to work. That's both the joy and the drawback from a vendor perspective of cloud. They're not that sticky, so they have to be really good. So generally, we either take it from your own computer or call IT. They'll take Zoom off the screen and let you pull up a browser, and then we'll lock it back down once you leave.
So to expand on that, I encourage you to come over to our Zoom room demos on the floor. Some of the sales engineers can talk more, but we understand the pain point there. That's why we brought in the ability to pull the audio automatically and do a one-touch dial out for audio. Doesn't accomplish the video side yet.
Oh yeah, if it's audio, we just use Zoom.
We can talk about some best practices. We've been listening to the customers. We've brought some features like the ability to exit Zoom room without signing out, without needing that passcode. So you can have the ability to exit the Zoom app, run something else, and come back. Still not optimal. Other apps sometimes will keep those USB resources tied up and can cause IT problems for you later. So it's definitely a pain point we understand. There are feature requests in around that. Definitely follow up with your sales engineer or your CSM. We talk more about any roadmap around trying to address that problem and other options you have when those meetings include IP addresses, SIP URIs, meeting numbers. There may be some options within Zoom Room we can show you to dial out to those platforms still using CRC. Any other questions?
Hi, how you doing?
Hello.
I believe there was a use case you said you had an executive that you put a Zoom room in a hotel. I was wondering if you could expound on that, please.
Yeah, he didn't put, the Zoom room part of that was not our executive in the hotel. What it was, once a year, we bring our entire global IT leadership team from around the world together for strategic planning for the following year and budgeting. And it's important that our leaders hear from all of our senior executives across every function. So our CEO, our CFO, our general counsel, everybody presents. In this case, our chief commercial officer needed to be in Australia to meet with a client. And it was really important that we have him in attendance. So from his side, he used a laptop and a webcam over Wi-Fi from the Marriott in Sydney, right? It was as simple as can be. From our standpoint, my team brought in what I call a mobile Zoom room. We brought in a Logitech Rally Cam. We put it up on a tripod. We had it running, and then we tied into the hotel's AV and put it up on the big speaker. And then we used some wireless Sennheiser mics to Bluetooth in that to place around so that he was there, engaged. He could see us. We could see him. People could ask questions. And other than, the ability to have a drink with him in the evening and shake his hand and say thank you, the experience of him being at the meeting was just as if he had physically been at the meeting.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so to expand on that, again, come talk to your SEs. We can talk about Zoom in a box. I came from hospitality before joining Zoom and did a lot of building Zoom rooms in a Pelican case. You'll see sales engineers and your account managers go on site sometimes with these. So all the components you need, fit them in a box, roll it into any place you're going. You're already buying some kind of internet connection and screens or projectors for an event if you're going into a hotel space somewhere. So bring in your Pelican case, bring out your computer, your camera, tie into room audio, and you can bring a Zoom room up pretty much anywhere within a few minutes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sure the people in the back may be starting to smell the aroma of the buffet table back there, so we do want to be respectful of time. But if well, yeah, we haven't quite got it yet up here, but you never know. Back
we
there,
are approaching lunchtime. You are all welcome to stay longer if you have any more questions. We'll hang out here for a while. Appreciate you coming in and enjoy the rest of your show.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.